Hey everybody, it's Nick and Haley here, Chupacabra Offroad. This is Haley Sutton.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And we are the team that cranks out a majority of the content you guys see on the YouTube, social, and basically everywhere else. And we thought we'd do a different video. We've become students of this ourselves over the years and checking out our favorite YouTubers and figuring out what makes really good B-roll, what makes for great content, and how we can add to off-road culture and take some of those ingredients and make a really good off-road channel, which has kind of been our goal here. So we want to kind of talk you guys through what we use, some of the gear we've bought over the years, what we've learned, and how we think about creating content on the YouTube channel and beyond. So we started the YouTube channel about 2.5 years ago in April of 2018 and learned a lot. If you guys follow the channel, you've seen we've been to Moab, we've been to Mexico, we've done some racing, we've done glamorous, we've worked with other videographers and learned a lot along the way. I really want to kind of share that with you guys, you know, what our real takeaways are from the gear that we've used, from the environments that we've shot in, and how we think about trying to make good content. So I really had an interest for this at a younger age back in college, but Haley's been part of the team here for what, 5 or 6 months now, roughly?
Roughly, yeah.
So obviously Haley is way more into this even than I at a younger age. So how did you get into creating content?
Well, I was about 9 years old when my mom and dad gave me a camera for the very first time. So that was a Polaris camera back in the day, which isn't apparently that long ago. So starting off from having a camera in my hand, then I always had it in my hand, like at school, to the dunes. I even studied film and photography in college, where I also dabbled in like sports photography and videography. And I just carried out my passion from there to make it my career. So
I started off a little bit of a younger age, not nearly as into it and passionate as Haley was, but I did some video production myself back in early 2000, making videos of friends, and purchased a video camera and made a video of my first mountain biking trip up in Whistler in 2008, and I think to this day it's got over 170,000 views.
That's nice.
Wouldn't we kill for 170,000 views? You guys need to subscribe. No, but that was fun, and I'd always had like a little interest in it, and me being, like I said, much older than Haley, I came from the Crusty Demons of Dirt video series, dirt biking, the Fox Terra Firma series, some of my favorites, all of that type of stuff were the ingredients, and of course the Travis Pastrana pre-Nitro Circus days. Right. So like action sports stuff as it's really kind of bubbling, brands are being created in the late 90s and early 2000s. So that was a lot of my inspiration back then. It's just so funny to think about, you know, we didn't have smartphones, we didn't have even an easy way of sharing content. True. But these videos were being pushed out and sold at scale on VHS tapes. So there's obviously these movements and these subcultures happening, and that's just kind of how it happened. And fast forward to today, you know, it's totally different now. You can hop on YouTube or many other platforms and find exactly what you're looking for.
Definitely growing up in the YouTube culture in 2008, I was actually only in 8th grade. And that's when like Facebook had just came out for public, and then that's when MySpace was starting to die. Like YouTube culture became really big right then and there. So having 100,000 views in 2008 was even more than what 100,000 views is worth today. And then today, growing up with YouTube, like I've listened and watched multiple YouTube influencers. Like Peter McGinnon is where I learn a lot of B-roll editing, color correcting with photography, Casey Nassett, also Daniel Schleifer. I have a few other influencers like Jake Chamzadine, who does a great job at shooting B-roll of adventures and outdoors. So there's a lot to learn on YouTube that just really didn't exist even 10 years ago.
That's a good point too. You know, speaking of not existing, like in a lot of off-road video content, even when we started as recent as 2.5 years ago, I didn't really think there was anything like what we're trying to do in terms of Southwest ride trips. And then looking at some of those ingredients, like you said, you brought up Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat. I'm kind of thumbing my through. I get Adobe Premiere and I'm like teaching myself how to edit. I've done some little stuff with iMovie, and of course it's like on a whole different scale of what you can do, and I still maybe scratch the surface. But looking at what these other creators do who are super talented and are really like holding our hands on YouTube and explaining to us about what camera gear to buy and like how to make, you know, gorgeous B-roll, how to color correct, all these type of things that I was really interested in learning, of course, to give us the best content that we can make. And you know, I don't want to approach the off-road content making space like everybody else. Like there's a lot of other YouTubers or content creators that are far bigger than us, but like that's cool, that's them, that's what they do, and I wanted to have our own approach. And This is like a theme that we wrestle with all the time, is creating the best content we can make, whatever you want to call it, best content possible. We kind of always feel like we are a slave to the views and the subscribers, even though that's definitely not our North Star.
We aim to like make sure we're doing everyday content along with full production videos. And I think that's something that this space in the off-road industry doesn't have. Like there's a ton of fully produced videos, and then there's a ton of like everyday vlog style, but there's not a company that's doing both. So I know that that's a goal that we have, is to make it something that relatable to our viewers.
Yeah, you know, we like to produce those pieces as much as we can that are just on a bigger scale. And for us, that looks like extra help shooting, you know, using multiple pieces of camera, multiple angles, trying to tell a story, and then make all that relatable to like passionate off-roaders, you know, like make a real glamorous video for people who really love the culture, like they really appreciate, and so on. So with that being said, let's get into the gear, because I think it's a perfect time to talk about a drone. Now, I have been wanting a drone, seen them, but starting this channel, I knew that we had to have some aerial shots, especially all the places we get to go ride. You look at our channel, like even just seeing drone footage of the dunes, Moab, like I couldn't imagine going to Moab now, or some of these other gorgeous places I've been able to go to, and not showing you guys and conveying the experience with the drone. And it started off, this is what Haley's holding is the DJI Mavic Air 2, but I started off with the Mavic Air, which is the predecessor to this. And it was a great piece. It had 21-minute flight times. It shot in 4K, which is most important. But as we move forward, we just picked this up, and Haley's flown it a couple of times. I want to know what you think about it. But the biggest takeaways are this cost the same price that the one did when it came out, but it's got a 34-minute flight time, which is huge. And even other upgrades they've made, like 12 megapixel photos, are now 48.
Yes. Shooting with this drone, just even practicing with it, there's a lot of tricks to it that I still don't even know. Like you can learn so much in manual mode of this drone. Also, learning how to fly it, it seems really intimidating, but it's actually a lot easier than you would probably think it does, because it does a lot of the hovering itself, which I feel like a lot of people don't know with drones. Like it just it can sit there on its own. You don't have to constantly be moving it. One of the biggest takeaways also with flying a drone is making sure that your shots aren't too high, because then it just gets washed out in the footage. If you just stay low and stay where you want the subject to be focused on, then you get a great shot.
Yeah, I think that's one thing another videographer taught me too, was keeping it lower than you think, so it's gonna be more interesting shot and you can see what's going on with the subject, a vehicle or whatever. One thing too for us is a lot of the automatic features, this will fly in a perfect circle. So when we're flying, we're still really notchy. You know, I've been flying for a couple of years, but making nice smooth shots so you can use those in the video and it's not notchy and annoying to watch. But you know, like this Mavic 2's got a lot of them preset, so we can just have it do a nice perfect circle, let's say over the sand drags, and then we can use snippets of it, we can speed it up, we can reverse it in post-production, and just have a really nice amount of shots that we can add. So the drone is used in its capacity, it's not just somebody who's up in the air.
Right. It shoots really well in night as well. It does a great job of picking up low light situations during sunset. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, we'll talk about that now. We've kind of reached from a 2.5-year cycle. We've shot at Glamis a bunch of times. We've shot in Mexico several times. So I always think about like what can we do to provide a different experience, a different viewing angle on some of these same rides. So if you're interested in going on one of these rides, you know, we can add value by showing you what the landscape looks like, so you can, you know, get excited about it, or maybe pull the trigger on a long drive that maybe you otherwise wouldn't. You know, that's kind of like one of the goals, I think, is that we can put together a piece of content that gets you really fired up to go maybe explore a new area. Or even by the end of this video, I will give you some tips on maybe wanting to step up your own game and with a minimal amount of money get into this, because you don't need all this stuff to make banger videos that have hundreds of thousands of views.
No, it just helps.
Yeah. So of course you can't shoot action sports photography without a GoPro. And I haven't really used a DJI or other competing brands' action cameras, but I do feel like GoPro is winning, has won, has iterated, they've had competition, and they've continually stepped their game up.
I agree with you, especially coming from the very, very first GoPro. I had that back in the day, set up on our sand rail, the very first GoPro Hero, and then all the way to the 3, to the 7. They've definitely stepped their game all the way up to the 9.
Yeah, so, you know, started off, I started out a youngster, GoPro 3, 3 Plus. I'd used it, done some video editing. It was good. I think I shot 1080 at 60 frames a second, which is stuff that looks really clean. We still produce a lot of videos at 1080p that look good, even pulled up on a big screen TV in your living room. But once we started the channel, at the time, the GoPro 6 was the hot new camera, which was kind of like their first foray into like the real image stabilization.
Yeah.
So we don't have a 6 here, but our buddy Andrew has it. I've let him use it for content creating out where he lives in Southern California. And after we used the 6, I used it for quite a bit. I ended up purchasing this little 5 session and used the 5 session on a gimbal. And really, I didn't realize, I thought the 6 would work on a gimbal, and I was using this for some bike footage, motorcycle footage. So I thought, oh, with the gimbal and the 6, it's gonna be perfect. But as it turns out, the 6 audio would get ruined because of the fitment of the gimbal. So I got this Hero 5 session. It's nice and small. The battery actually works surprisingly well. I think it's a great piece for mountain biking because it's so lightweight, but I wouldn't recommend for off-roading that you spend your money on one if they're even around, if you're gonna pick one up used. There is no stabilization. I used it more recently on a ride in Mexico earlier this year, and it was just really, really shaky. I just don't think it's worth it for your money, basically.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So then we moved on to the GoPro 7, and the 7 here is set up on a vlogger setup because start to realize, hey, we're vlogging, how can we use this for everything? And at the time, a lot of people on YouTube are just kind of coming with these little makeshift setups. So this is like a little $15, $12 cage, and it fits a little housing for a GoPro audio adapter. So you can see we've got a little Rode micro external mic, and this mic's been super reliable. We beat the crap out of it, and it works really well. You have to have this adapter to plug in to get the external audio because, of course, as we know, when we're outdoors, it's always windy and it can ruin audio.
Right. It's also missing the piece that goes right here to cover it to help with wind. The mic does a really good job enhancing vocals and as well as capturing the best sound possible in those off-road situations.
The 7 has really been a great workhorse. The stabilization got even better than the 6. We've beat the snot out of this thing. I think I rode in the back from Glamis, and it got all beat up and the screen's cracked, but it still works fine. And I think now you can pick one up for $250. So hard to beat dollar to performance ratio. It's a great camera, highly recommend. And then we moved on to the GoPro 8 because in the midst of all of this vlogger setup, they come out with the media mod setup, which when you look at it, you're like, oh, this is sweet. You can throw it in the back of your Camelback. It's one less piece that could potentially break. It takes up less space. And then it integrates where you can plug in an external mic, or we can put in a lapel mic, if you will.
Right.
The battery dies really quick when you use the media mod, and unfortunately, GoPro shifted away from the removable lens, which this lens just pulls up and pops off, and these are easily replaceable on Amazon, which I've broken a few and scratched many, having on the side of my razor.
Yeah, and you can't do that with the 8.
You gotta send it in.
And the only downfall about this media mod is that the mic's still not that great. You still would want to use an external mic when you're recording.
So far, pretty lackluster with the 8. I think if you have a 6 or a 7, don't spend your money. But on the opposite note, we picked up a 9, and the 9 is the bee's knees so far. So I used it on a Mexico trip a few weeks ago. The screen in the front is such a game changer because I've got long arms. I can just hold it with that RAM mount and I can vlog, and I'm in the frame for the most part. And you can see yourself because you've got the front screen, which was a long time competitive advantage of the DJI.
Yes, and we used this in the sand dunes a couple weeks ago, and the new GoPro 9 has the horizon leveling feature, which when your car is moving like this and your camera doesn't move, it looks so smooth. It looks so clean. It looks like you spent thousands of dollars on getting this great shot. So I think the GoPro 9 did a good job of enhancing their stabilization feature for sure.
Yeah, the horizon leveling is really cool. It's to a point where gimbals have really become obsolete. One other thing, like with the screen on the front, I'll put it on the side of my razor all the time, and I can see in my mirror that it's on, just so I know that it's on and off. I'll show you guys in a second where we have mounted up on our razor. I like running it on the side of the B-pillar because I can turn it on and off, and I think it's a pretty cool shot. You can see the terrain, you can see the suspension work, and you can see me with the driver input. But that's just another nice feature. Everything about it, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit heavier. I still wouldn't be opposed to running on top of my helmet on a dirt bike. It's not that heavy. The battery life is phenomenal. Yes,
the battery life really does last a long time. We rode for, 5 hours last weekend, and it did not die on me by any means. Like going on and off, obviously, not a full 5 hours going on. But the GoPro 8, that just dies within 20 minutes of riding and you lose your shots.
Yeah, so kudos to GoPro for stepping it up. You guys definitely stumbled with the 8, but if you're an off-roader, I say spend the money and get the GoPro 9. Now, we're gonna call it $350 if you go on their website. It says $450, but $350 if you sign up for their service. Now, I like the service because it gives you a warranty. We're really hard on these things as off-roaders, as well as it gives you discounts on the accessories. So we just ordered the new media mod for it today. There's a new max lens option. When it comes in stock, we'll get it too. But the 9, I think, is gonna be our ultimate workhorse. We can use for vlogging. We can use for everything. I think we're gonna use the heck out of it, and it's gonna look pretty beat up in about 12 more months. But the experience thought it's waterproof, it's gonna hold up well, and highly recommend. So that's pretty much it for our GoPro camera recommendations. I guess the one final thought, Haley, like we've been experimenting with a lot of different camera settings and a lot of export settings. So I've become a pretty big fan of exporting our videos at 2.7K. Well, what would you recommend export settings for the camera?
I definitely agree with exporting in 2.7K. YouTube does a great job at showing 2.7. And then it's quick and easy on your computer to export. If you go to 4K, it can take a little bit longer to export. Shooting wise, shooting in 2.7K, it still gives you a really clear image. But in the end of the day, you can do 4K and still export it in 2.7K, which is what I would recommend mostly. Yeah,
you gotta have fast internet to upload. I mean, it takes up more memory doing everything in 4K. We've done some projects and shooting with the drone in 4K, for projects 2.7, basically a 4K is this big, a 2.7 is this big, so we can zoom in the shot a little bit more. The quality looks really good. And just when, like Haley said, you think you're flying too high and you're low, you still would like to zoom in, and it makes for a better looking shot. Right now, I think that's how we export most everything in. You get a big memory card, a 64, put a 128 in the 9, and I'm gonna take it to Glams this weekend and probably shoot most everything on it.
Yeah, we definitely run 128 in the drone and in the GoPro 9, and you're set for the entire weekend.
So pretty easy, guys. Last thing you want to deal with was you're out in the dunes. You're just trying to keep these things charged, but having to dump memory cards is a huge pain in the neck.
Yes, it is.
So of course you can't have your GoPros not having them mounted safely and securely, and I've been a big fan of the RAM mounts. You see the 9 that Haley's got here has got an arm on it. Now basically they have a little ball system that's pretty easy. This is a roll cage mount where you basically have a hose clamp and put a little rubber around it so you don't scratch your vehicle. I always carry this little 8mm, got it in my door bag at all times so I can switch mounts around, but you can throw it on and off of your vehicle in different situations, throw it on a buddy's vehicle. And I've got multiple mounts on the car. The one thing for me, I always kind of get lazy is moving the GoPro around to get different shots on the car throughout the course of a trip. So at least if I have a couple of these mounted up, all you gotta do, like I've been on a Sand Hollow ride recently, we're going on a slow trail where people were behind us, so we got out for a quick stop. I jumped out, I threw this behind the car, and then just filmed the car behind me just to get a different perspective, because I imagine a lot of you guys, like myself, like I don't want to just watch GoPro of one angle for too long.
Right.
So here's the 9 with the RAM mount we talked about. Here's one of my most favorite mounting positions. As you can see, you can just kind of set it up, turn the screen on, get it exactly how you'd like it. I like shooting in the super view on the side of the vehicle because it opens up a lot. There's a linear mode, which is really good for vlogging because it's less of that bubbly fish eye. So you can go back and forth with those really quick. And again, like I like the mount here for the RAM a lot better than even something like this. We've experimented with this GoPro mount, which is kind of cool. You can move around and get some interesting angles. It's real quick and easy, but it still has like that vibration that the Rams don't. So, and it's just that easy. Come around here to the back of the car. We'll pop it off. Like I said, I stopped on a trail ride, had one back here, popped it right on. This one I can't really see out of the back that well, so I'd pull it up on the app, make sure that the screen is correct. But like I said, if you get in super view and you kind of straighten it up and get it close, it's going to get pretty much exactly the shot that you need when you're going up and down, up in hills and stuff. So RAM mount, can't beat it. Get a couple of these. Like I said, you have a tool in your pocket. You can easily get 4 or 5 different angles, which adds a lot of flavor and a lot more of a idea for the viewer of what your ride's like. So the RAM mounts that work well, they're definitely not cheap. I think if you're getting into it, just getting an arm and a couple little pieces, you're looking close to about $80 to $100. But the amount of adjustability you've got with them, I mean, with 2 of these, with that arm, you could really get 5 or 6 really clean angles, I think, at least.
Oh yes, there's so many different places you can put them, especially if you have the right size for your roll cage, then everything, you can move it from both driver side, passenger side, you can have it in the center. Your options are endless, basically.
And you know, it gets old putting the little stickies all over, the GoPro stickies all over your vehicle. I think that was kind of like old school and passe, and this is, I think, the cleanest way to go. Like I said, you can throw it on anybody else's vehicle, move it around. You don't run out of stickies. It's not annoying and eyesore in your vehicle and one and done. There's some of these other mounts, like here's a GoPro mount. Like I said, because I have the subscription, some of these items are on sale. This is a roll cage mount. It has some adjustability, you can swivel it around, and it does have some spacers to kind of go off of your roll cage size, depending on how big or small you are. But I don't know, I picked this up I think for 20 bucks. It was a decent deal, but we've hardly ever used it because it doesn't get the camera exactly how you want it, like you can do with a RAM. So highly recommend a RAM for any and all GoPro stuff. All right, so moving on to our big camera. You can't see it at the moment because that's what we're filming with, but we have a Canon 6D Mark II with a 24x105 lens. Now, I had done some research. I had started off with a Nikon D3300. When we first launched the business, we needed a decent camera to take photos for our Amazon listing images and for our website. And we still need that. We still use the photography feature quite a bit. But the research I did from YouTubers, everyone said the 60 is like a really good price point for a screen that pops around. We're looking at our screen right now. You can use it as a vlogger, and I actually had it with this Mobi held up in the old school days of 2018 as a vlogging setup. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who still vlog that way, but for what we do, I told Haley, I said, look, Haley, if we get a couple GoPros, we have one set up as a vlogger, the other as our action cam. For what we do, it's so easy. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. Coming from a photography background, I've used multiple cameras from Nikon, Sony, and then a Canon. So shooting with this, the image is crystal clear. The photos turn out beautiful. The video is really nice. I love the autofocus feature on the Canon. It does a great job for everything that we needed to do, going from vlogging style to doing action sports. It still does a great job.
Yeah, so it's just really cumbersome to use out in the field. Like, for instance, we were doing the pre-run in Havasu, and Haley just had, one of these set up, and she could take some little snippets at different angles, kind of just to share the experience of the pre-run. And just for little snippet segments, I mean, with the stabilization, I think of the 8 you're using, you got some good little shots, a little, wherewithal. You can see us in the car, you can see the terrain. And that was far more achievable than if you were holding the 60.
Absolutely. That is the one downfall of this massive camera, is that you can't really, you don't want to take it anywhere that's going to get damaged, where the GoPro, you could literally throw it off your razor and it'll still be fine.
Yeah. So definitely nice to have an SLR if trying to step your game up. So speaking of stepping your game up, we had the camera. We'd work with a videographer named Nathan McBride, who's super talented. If you guys have watched our Glamis President's Day video 2019, I think it's our most popular video, and Nathan shot and directed and edited that video. But he had brought out a 400mm lens, which we ended up purchasing ourselves. So I realized the value when I was watching him shoot, especially at the sand drags, especially just getting cool B-roll for people hanging out, having fun at the swing set, all that type of stuff. And we were using it recently at UTV World Championships, guys coming in from the end of their first lap, going through some whoops and stuff. So this pops right on to our 6D. It gives us really a really great tool for capturing those shots in those areas, and really glad that we bought it.
Yes, coming from a sports background, I've used a dozen different lenses similar to this. Typically they're prime, so they're only 300, only 400. This actually ranges from 100 to 400, with still the f-stop being great. Using a lens like this comes with some downfalls. If you're filming video with it, you really have to have really steady hands or an awesome tripod or monopod, so that way you don't get so shaky. But the photography on this is really nice to have when you're at the drags, or when we were at UTV Worlds capturing the beginning of the race and the ending of the race. This was one of those things that was really nice to have, just to get those really close and tight shots that you don't see with a GoPro.
Yeah, we can really only get so close, right? If we're at a race or we're at Glamis, you just can't get tight enough, and that's really where that lens is worth its weight. Difficult to bring around. We have a backpack that we use that's got a rain fly or a dust fly, if you will, and it keeps everything safe. And I'm actually going to go to Glamis this weekend. I'm probably going to drag around my tripod as well, because I plan on using the 400 for sure for the drags and maybe some other good B-roll shots of hanging out on Sunset Hill and all that. So that's kind of a whole breadth of what we've got, guys. Hopefully this gives you guys a little idea of like how much energy we put in and try to make this content good, how much money we spend. But you know, thanks to you guys, our customers, help grow our brand by buying our products. We want to reinvest and make as much content as possible and as good as content as possible. So we're still learning how to scale that up. We got some projects we're excited to be working on later this year. Want to make a couple banger Glamis videos for the season. We know that the Glamis crowd really over-indexes on YouTube, and we've seen a lot of momentum. And then a lot of other stuff you see throughout the year, like what we're doing. So if you got any good ideas for content that you don't think exists, any suggestions for us, we're all ears. You know, we'll talk about it in the future, maybe a part 2, and you guys have to respond in the comments talking about, okay, here's part 1, here's all the gear, but then part 2, how do we edit it, and then how do we choose content and put together a style of video that people love.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in.
Final snippet, I don't want to leave without giving you guys some tips. Let's say, Haley, you want to get into this for about $500. This video got you excited. You want to shoot some better content. How should I spend the $500?
So $500 can get you either a lot or very little. So for the most bang for your buck, I would suggest getting the GoPro 9. I know that sounds a little cliche with it being the newest thing on the block, but it's still relatively decently priced. You can get a really good new media mod on it. So if you want the extra microphone, it's great. And then also getting the RAM mounts attached to it, that's still bringing you under $100. Upgrading the memory card to being a high speed and 128 gigabyte, again, you're still under $500. And a good vlogging camera today, even the small point and shoot ones, are all over 600. The lenses are all over 600. Some of them are thousands of dollars. Cameras are thousands of dollars. So honestly, in this industry, in the off-road space, the GoPro 9 is what I'm gonna say is the best for your $500.
Yeah, you know, I think you can do so much with it. Just with that little RAM mount, you can hold it and use it as a vlogger. The GoPro app has really gotten a lot better, which is another reason why I think it's probably the best action cam. You can take little snippets and just upload those to social really quickly right off your phone. There's even some color correction you can do in the app, and it's worked a lot better than it has over the years. Like Haley said, a little bit bigger memory card, maybe the media mod, and some RAM mounts. You're right about $500, and really hard to beat for something you could use at a lot of different angles. You can put together a video, which I think is some action shots and some of you talking, because you know, from what we've learned, people want to know about the people who are there, and that's part of the whole experience too. And then if you do want to step up to level 2, I did see DJI just launched the Maverick Mini Part 2. The first one was inexpensive. This one's a little bit more. I think it's $400, but it now shoots in 4K versus the first Mini, which didn't. So I think 4K for a drone is non-negotiable, because you're always so high up in the air. You want that wide shot so that you can eventually scale it down. Software-wise, now $500 we're kind of cheating, but if we assume that you do have a Mac, you have iMovie, which is a really good place to start.
Yes, iMovie is a really good space to start, especially if you have a Mac or an iPhone. You can download iMovie to your phone and edit from it, as well as the GoPro app like you mentioned earlier, making it really seamless to do it on the fly, or just even when you're sitting down on your couch doing absolutely nothing else. So we also have a subscription to Premiere Pro, so that's what we use. Creators typically have that. If you don't, you can get it relatively decently priced for like, what, $20-something a month. There's a ton of different free options. There's Shotcut and a few others that are online that are free that do a decent job as well.
Yeah, Adobe Premiere, you know, so many features you can use. After Effects once you get really good. And just for color grading, all that type of stuff, we'll go anywhere from a quick project like this where we can probably shoot it and edit it in, what, 2 hours? To a Glamis video with multiple camera shots where it's all hands on deck. Because another way we try to add value with shooting our content is we want to get those videos up right away. We're not going to go shoot Veterans Day this weekend and then we'll launch the video in January. Yeah. Like, people have already forgot about it. So that's always been a big sticking point for me. If we've hired people, whatnot, UTV World Championships, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we raced UTV World Championships. The following week we had Sand Show, and we were able to get 4 videos up on YouTube in between. So we do as much as we can to get it out just as quick as anybody hopefully can, and also keep the quality as high as we can. We've learned a lot of mistakes about how not to get good audio, how to get good audio, even shooting stuff on our phone, whatever we can, just kind of add it up and mix things up. So thanks everybody who follows us, who subscribe to our channel. Hope you guys appreciate the effort and appreciate the channel. Any comments, like we said, comment below. We're all ears. We just want to make this content, this channel, as good as it can be. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See ya.